everyone, Henry here, showing you the new Blender exporter that's bundled with the upcoming Kickstarter, Europe Asunder, and the 7 Years' War. Who is this video for? It's for everyone. If you're familiar with my previous work and you just want to see the new content that's going to be bundled inside this exporter, well, you're in the right place. But even if you don't know what a Blender exporter is and you have no idea or no experience with my previous work, then I'm going to do my best to explain to you just what a Blender exporter is for and the opportunities that you have. In brief, these are files that are opened with a free 3D modeling program called Blender that allow you to export your own customized versions of my miniatures. You customize them by toggling different parts of models down to rather minor details, to be honest, and repairing those up as fully printable STLs. You use exactly the same methodology as I do when I put the final products out. So let's get on with things. Now, to start with, you'll see that on the right-hand side of the screen here, where I'm moving my mouse up and down, we have different categories that I've created, which can be expanded by clicking the arrows to the left. Now, I'm going to click to expand the heads first, but I have clicked it, and we have heads and hats. To the right of it, you'll see this closed eye, which contrasts against the open eyes beneath it. These eyes indicate whether or not an item is being shown. If some items are toggled as being shown, but the parent folder there within is toggled off, they will not display. However, when I click this eyeball right now, you'll see, wham, a whole bunch of stuff just appeared. So, what have we got in front of us? Well, looking at the folder on the right, you can see the illuminated items, the items that are currently displaying. So we've got this fine moustache, which can be toggled by either clicking this eyeball, or I can click on the moustache itself, left click, and press H for hide. You can do either way. If you want to unhide objects, you can press Alt plus H. But why am I telling you key bindings? Now I think about it, I've actually done a Blender hotkeys tutorial, which you can find on my channel, so I won't waste too much time with explaining stuff like that. If you're interested in how all this works, you can look at that. This is just about 7 Years' War content. We'll go through this a bit in brief, but under the head category, you've got the facial hair, which you've just seen. Little details like wig curls, on or off under the hat. Two types of queue. This one, the overwebbing version, protrudes out. The underwebbing one it doesn't protrude out so far. So the purpose of the other version is to make it fit over straps and things that might go over the model's back. Different headgear. This is a Prussian cocked hat. This is a cocked left version. We have 3 orientations for all the cocked hats. Cocked right, cocked left, straight. The purpose of the different cocked versions is depending on what the model's carrying. If it's a musketeer, he'll have his musket over his left shoulder, so he'll cock his hat that way so it fits. They did that in real life. And cock right, if it's like an NCO, he'll have his musket on the opposite side. As for options that can be changed on the hats themselves, we have a thick rim, which on the Prussian version actually isn't present yet. I'm debating adding it or not because they have thin rims, if at all. But the folder is there because this is present on the default cocked hat. I should actually have put this disclaimer at the start, by the way. Sorry, this is a work in progress file. We are going to see bug things. We're going to see things that won't be in the final version. I am working my socks off to both prepare the final STLs and get the Kickstarter ready. The finishing touches on the Blender are low priority at the moment, but from the time of recording, I have more than a month to get that done. Believe me, this file will be in a better state when you see it. Other options, we have a cockade that can be toggled on or off. On Prussians, the cockade should only be present on officers, in which case they would not have the pom-pom. On the enlisted men, it's just this plain button. But let's not, get fixated on the asinine details. As for other cocked hats, we have a default cocked hat. I use this for the Austrians, French, and the British. The Austrians have this, cockade here, and the hat trim. Pom-poms as well, Prussian style pom-pom on the top, if you want that. And for our other cocked hat, we have a Russian one. The differences between them are very subtle, but the Russian one protrudes further out to the front with a sort of pointed front. The Prussian one is slightly wider, and the default one is just a bog standard tricorn, or at least what I deem to be. On this, we can actually see the thick rim. That's the thick rim, thin rim. Thin, thick. Okay, moving on from the cocked hats, we have miters. This is a British mitre. It's plain because they had different designs on the front, which you could paint on if you're a masochist. We have a Prussian 1756 mitre listed, but nothing here. That's because this is a stretch goal. You'll see under some of the items we have stretch goals, but obviously haven't sculpted them because they haven't funded yet. The 1731 mitre. I'm debating making these details embossed on the front plate. I'm not sure if that's going to work at 6mm, but this is kind of a placeholder item at the moment. We have the Prussian Fusilier mitre and the Prussian Grenadier mitre. And next up, I'm trying to keep it brief. I have a habit of waffling on too long in these videos. We have a standard bearskin sculpt, pointed in style. Seems appropriate for both the French and the Austrians, which can have an Austrian plate on it, or a French plate. Busbies, I haven't made any yet. I'm not sure if they're needed. And a British Light Dragoon hat. And a bicorn for the British Dragoons, which, now I think about it, I've exported the Dragoons with cocked hats. I'll need to check if that's correct. It seems past version of myself felt they needed bicorns. I will take a gander and fix that if that is the case. Anyway, as for other hat types, these are the default hats, but we also have heads that are oriented at different degrees. This is 25 degrees, so it's looking 25 degrees, 50 degrees, 70 degrees. You'll need these for fitting the different action poses. But let's leave on our default hat, and we'll put on, just a cocked hat for now. Might change it later. We are going to export a figure as part of this video. Next under that, we have trousers. Now, mostly these are just the gaiters here. We do have cavalry boots for some poses, but unless some stretch goals fun, these are the only trouser options, gaiters. We have marching legs, standing legs, firing legs, kneeling firing, plain kneeling, running. The reason this is on supports is because this everything in this file is designed to print supportless, on the assumption that all the underside details are lying horizontally. So if I were to angle anything forward, it wouldn't print anymore. So that's why the legs have to be angled so that everything above it is guaranteed to print supportless, if that makes sense. Mirrored version of those running legs, advancing legs, stooping legs, mounted legs for the cavalry, and sitting legs, which are a stretch goal. No, sorry, I misspoke. They are not a stretch goal. They're for the HQ set, which I have not sculpted yet. That's something else that's going to be done during the funding window. Got a month during that. It's plenty of time to get the HQs done. Next up, let's leave the marching legs on. Look at what's up next. We have poses. I'm going to skip them for now. We're going to go into the really detailed stuff. We have assets and garments. And as soon as I enabled that, you just saw a whole bunch of stuff appear. We've got, just looking at what's appeared in the model so far, we've got lapels with buttons to go on. We've got a long waistcoat with pockets for that. The wrong pockets are selected right now, which is why they're clipping. Turnback parts, which will be for the jackets that we put on top. This is for a jacket with turnbacks. These are little buttons to hold the turnbacks in place. Of course, in real life, these were actually clips, but on a 6mm model, I went with buttons. And we have jacket parts to go on the back. These are all toggleable. Let's look at them in terms of options. Top of the assets and garments, we've got collars. First of all, there's a shirt collar, which you can't see because it's underneath this bigger collar. And underneath the waistcoat on top of that. That's there. Then we have a small flap collar. This is what I believe I'm using on the Prussians. There's a large flap collar, which fits over the top of that. Russian artilleryman collar. Open Russian collar, closed Russian collar, a British collar, and a tool collar. I could not remember which model uses this, but one of them has these collar tabs on. Sorry, it's a very hot day. My mind's not quite where it should be. We've got cravats, one that can be worn over the waistcoat. If I switch the waistcoat out, sorry, very quickly for an open one, it looks better. And hide the buttons. We've got a cravat that fits over a waistcoat, and we've got a cravat that fits under a waistcoat. We've got a necktie, and a necktie that will fit over the long waistcoat. We have two types of waistcoat, short and long. So make sure you have the right necktie for the waistcoat you've got enabled. We've got different coat lapels. So this is the standard one. This is for Prussian enlisted men. Standard straight, which is for open jackets. This is what the Austrian officers use. Enlisted British lapels. British officer lapels, just like with the Austrians. This goes over an open jacket. And buttons to fit on an open jacket, but without the lapels. This is actually in the wrong place. This should be down with the buttons. Yeah, coat buttons down here. So let's leave on the Prussian style lapels for now. We've got coat buttons. You use these without the lapels. Actually, I should add a note here. Let's say, oh, no, not there, sorry. Should be here. Apologies, this is not very professional to be editing the file live, as it were, but without lapels, just to make it clear you don't use that with it. I'm very often going through here and finding things every time I look. We have no turnback parts, which is what I mentioned as being the back of the jacket. And then for the side turnback parts, you have to select what pose the model is in, so the buttons are in the right place. As you see, they move a bit every time they're toggled on. But we are using the standing and marching because we're going to export a marching figure later. Finally, we have officer parts. This expands down to have some more options. We've got a gorget, a torso sash. That is a sash worn across the torso. An officer's sash that goes over the coat, and an officer's sash that goes under the coat. Now let's say we were using this one, because again, as you watch me use this file, you might see some conflicting and clashing bits. Just to let you know, there are ways to deal with any conflicts you see. In the case of this, we've got these buttons are separate objects, so I can actually hide the lower ones if I want to. I could make the sash bigger if I click it, then press tab, hold Z, and move my mouse to where it says wireframe, so I get this sort of X-ray view. I can drag and select vertices, press G for grab, and then Y to move on the Y-axis, and sort of drag stuff out to like cover up a button maybe, if I wanted to. Or I could just click this button, press L, right click, separate, selection, hide it, something like that. But what am I doing? I have a tutorial that is specifically dedicated to teaching you stuff like this, so I'm just wasting your time right now. I apologize. Let's move on, shall we? Just get the rest done very quickly. We've got different coat pockets that go on the side. That's what these are. I should hide the officer parts to be able to look at them better. We have arced pockets, which are what the Prussians and Austrians use. Large arc pockets, which are used by the French. And triangular pockets, which are used by the Brits. I've got two enabled there. Let's see if the marching one's on. Since I think we'll do a Prussian, let's leave the standard one. Standard should mean standing and marching. I could amend that later. Two types of waistcoat. When you select it, make sure it matches the pose you're going for. If you look at the standing one here, you'll see it clashes with the marching legs. So I should go for marching. But since we're going to do a Prussian today, let's get rid of the long waistcoat, which comes there's both an open version and a closed version. Put the buttons on there. Let's use a short waistcoat. Short waistcoats have three versions. There is partially open, which has this delightful sort of folded part over the top here. There is an open version, which should not have that lapel. Let me delete that. And there is a closed version. Just saving this since I've made a couple of edits as we're going along. We're going to want for the Prussians the open version set to marching, which comes with the bottom part that's marching. And we want to make sure the pockets match. So down here we've got short waistcoat pockets. Set that to marching, and now everything should sync up. We also have curved saber scabbards. At the moment this is set to marching, but we've got one for standing, we've got one for standing firing. Little tip for any of you who are using Blender: before you export any models, always make sure you have the right bits selected. I have somewhat painstakingly gone through and tried to make sure that every part syncs up on every pose combination. So where there are parts that will have problems, they have different versions, like this curved saber scabbard. If you were to look at the standing, you'll see it's not connected to the model. Because this model is designed to print without supports, this would be a print failure. So the marching one actually originates inside the leg. That's why there's an option, that's why you enable it. We also have French and British straight scabbards. This is the British one. As you see again, if I set that to marching, it begins in the leg. And the French one, the advancing one doesn't meet the leg, but the marching one does. So yes, I've tried to take care to make sure everything works with this. Last part to show you that's pertinent, I suppose, is the national parts. The final fold we have at the bottom. If I expand this, we have Prussian parts. You'll see different cartridge boxes, a pack and haversack, a canteen, a belly box if you want it. Artillery crew parts that includes, you can't see it with all this over the top. Get rid of that. Includes a powder flask and a straight sword. But because we're going to do a ranker, let's have the default webbing on. We've also got Austrians, Russians, belly box there for a grenadier, British, and French, with a lovely little ceinturon. Back to the Prussians. It is time to export a figure. Now, exporting a figure is going to require us to go through the pose list, so I'll very quickly run you through those, but I appreciate time is valuable. I will try to be faster than I've been so far. For different poses, we've got one marching or musket pose, and a mirrored version of that. Marching or musket 2, 3, and 4. These are new with the 7 Years' War Kickstarter. They were not in the Napoleonic Kickstarter. We've got a standing ready pose, which only works with standing legs, hence why this jacket is clipping. Have a marching drummer. By the way, these arm bugs, I'm sorry, this is because of the work in progress file. I have kept the arms that I connect to the body as separate objects, so they're clipping. That's just because it's convenient for me when I'm breaking up new jackets and parts. Have an idle drummer, marching fifer, idle fifer. The idle poses should be on standing legs, by the way. Marching oboist, idle oboist. NCO, who can be toggled to have a musket or various melee weapons. We've got a spontoon, halberd, and a partisan. Let's switch it back to a musket. This would also be the figure pose you would use for officers that are armed with muskets, like what the British and the Russians have. Also see that there's a cane that you can toggle on or off for Prussians and Austrians, sorry. NCO standing with weapon. The standing legs are lower down the marching legs, so this fits onto the base properly. Gesturing of weapon, that's a stretch goal. NCO shouting, that's a stretch goal. Officer marching with sword. Officer rallying. This is actually a stretch goal, but I put the preliminary assets in, so I appreciate I'm teasing you with something, but hopefully this will fund. Pointing. I've moved that to the artillery folder, actually, so that's not needed here. Sorry. Officer standing with cane, looking very dapper, very sophisticated, very much like he belongs in an 18th century oil painting. Standard bearer, who, by the way, this is a frequently asked question. You can toggle this to have the pole off, if you wish. I need to add in the solid fill parts here. They are missing. Let me just make a note to do that. Add solid fill parts. Sorry, very unprofessional. Next pose, we have the Pioneer and the Sapper. Whatever you want to call it, Pioneer / Sapper, and also another name would be a Zimmerman. Lots of things for these to be. And yeah, that's all the marching poses. We also have a whole bunch of action skirmish poses, artillery crew poses, casualty poses, those are a stretch goal. The HQ poses, which I still need to sculpt, those will be done in the intervening month between now and the actual release of the Kickstarter. It's going to fund next week, but during the funding window there'll be a month for me to finish everything. Cavalry poses and the horses. But let's get on to exporting a figure, because some of you are new here and you've never seen this before, so how do you export a figure, Henry? Well, first we choose the pose we want. I'm going to go with marching with musket 1. And then under coats here, we have a whole bunch of coats to choose from. Well, actually, let's introduce you to the coats in a less distracting way. It's going to hide everything. Yeah. This is the Russian coat. A few of the coats are just standard coats with turnbacks, but the difference is the opening on the front being designed to fit different styles of lapels. So the Russian coat has a particular lapel style. The Prussian coat meets in the middle here. So it's called the standard coat. It's shared by the Prussians and the Austrian rankers. Officer's coat, which has no turnbacks, and again meets the Prussian style lapels, but Austrian officers wear this version. Oh, sorry. Pardon me. Sorry, the Austrian version is actually missing here. Get it. That's because it's not an officer's pose. That's why. Okay, sorry. That's me being thick. We have the officer's coat here because some nations don't have turnbacks. Forgive me for that. We have a closed coat here. A partially closed one that's missing at the moment. I need to add that. This will be part of my final check. The last part before I upload this Blender file will be making sure every jacket's been rigged to every pose. We have another version of the partially closed jacket without turnbacks. The preceding version that's missing will have turnbacks like the Prussian coat. British coat, turnbacks, but British style opening. And yeah, we'll go for the Prussian one because I want to export Prussians. Can just unhide everything again, hide these arms. We've got different cuff options. Thin cuffs. That'll be on this arm. Thin cuffs. Thick cuffs. And British V-cut cuffs. They have the sort of V cleft in there. And yeah, because this is going to be a Prussian, we want thin cuffs with the marching torso. Don't like wig curls on the Prussians, get rid of that. I could search for items by clicking this search bar up here, so I'm just going to go cocked hat. I think this isn't the Prussian cocked hat, this is the default one. Yes, it is, that's default. We want Prussian. Narrowed front, Prussian. Cocked left, because it's a musketeer. Pom-pom is on, as is the plane button. The collar is set to the tall collar. That's not right for the Prussians. We want the small flat collar. Hide the tall collar. Anything else? We've got our shoulder tab there. Turnback parts, they are present. That's good. The saber is correct. This model is, I believe, ready to go. So how do we export? Left click any part of the model. Press the A key to select all. Press File, and then Export, and then STL. Now a window has popped up, but because of my recording software, you cannot see it. I have to describe it to you. But it's a window that's allowing me to, like any kind of save window you'd see on any other program, it's allowing me to select directory, so I've chosen my desktop. But very important before I export, on the right hand side of the screen, there is a little checkbox that says selection only. I have to make sure that is checked. And then underneath that, it says transform, and under there is a scale setting. I click that and I type 1.165, press enter. It rounds down to 1.16, but the 0.5 is there, it's just not displaying. This is because inside the Blender file, the models are true 6mm, but I export them at 116.5% scale because that more closely matches the height of metal manufacturers such as Adler and Bacchus. I'm naming my model Prussian Musketeer Test, and I click export. And you can join me on the Windows Store next to see how we repair the file and get it ready for printing. And here we have the Windows Store, which obviously is for Windows computers. If you're using a Mac, then you'll need to find some other piece of software for repairing STLs. But if you are a Windows user and you're on Windows 10 or Windows 11, then you can use the Microsoft Store to find an app called 3D Builder. Now that's an app that's created by Microsoft, and it's free of charge, and this is it. And when you find it, where I have open written here, you'll have install. So just click that and wait for it to download, and then when you're done, open it up. Now, here we are inside 3D Builder. I'm afraid I've had to cheat a bit. The STL we're going to open now is a slightly different one. That's just because I actually had computer problems while recording the last parts of this video, and I've since reinstalled Windows, so it might sound a little bit different. Anyway, let's not waste time on that. The interface you're looking at now is what you see when you first open up 3D Builder. To be honest with you, normally I don't actually open up the program and then open files from the program. Instead, on my PC, my STL files are associated with 3D Builder, so I just double-click the file to open it up. But I'm showing it to you this way, just in case, I suppose. I'm going to click Load Object. Now, you can't see the dialog box that's just popped up. I'm going to my desktop, and I am finding the Prussian figure. It's slightly different because since recording the other part of the video, I've removed the cockades from the Prussians after finding out that's not accurate. But anyway, here we see the model brought in. You'll eventually get an eye for this, but you can tell it's not a repaired model because 3D Builder is displaying the parts of the model that are separate objects in slightly different hues. So these lighter parts, like the lock on the musket, that means it's not been merged into a single mesh. But the most important thing to do when you open up a new model in 3D Builder is to look up here at these units of measurement. Whenever you import anything, the unit of measurement you pick should match the unit that was used in the Blender file. All of my Blender files, at exception, use millimeters, because my models are scaled in millimeters. If you were to import something that's in centimeters, it would be 10 times too large. As you can see, this model, by here, down here, this model is about, I think, 8 centimeters tall, something like that. But if we click millimeters, it should be 8 millimeters. Or 8 millimeters, yes. Click import after you select the correct unit, and immediately you see this red box on the bottom of the model and this pop up down here. All you have to do, very simple, is where it says one or more objects are invalidly defined, click here to repair, you just click it. And that's it. It starts repairing, and when it's done, you just click the X up here, and it will say, do you want to save your changes? Just click save. And that's that. That is how you export and repair an STL file. And now, if you've exported this scaled at 1.165 and you repair it like this, you have produced a model that is of identical quality to anything that I would make. Because I use the exact same methodology myself. And that's the power of the Blender files. You can go through all of those coat choices and different other items of apparel, belts, shoulder straps, packs, whatever. You can export any number of, say, for example, guard units or niche infantry. Hanoverians off the top of my head, for example. Hanoverian grenadiers are just the British bodies, let's say, with a Prussian meter on top. Or you might do Hessians, one of these like minor powers that I haven't bothered to make the uniforms for. Or you might be naughty and try preempt my American War of Independence Kickstarter and put some redcoats together or something. I don't know. It's your toolbox. It's yours to do with whatever you want. Anyway, guys, I hope you liked that. I've now announced that Europe Asunder, the 7 Years' War is coming out on the 9th of September. I have the preview link ready. It will be in the video description. I'll be circulating that around on Facebook. Whether you're interested in the STL files or the Blender files, please do pledge, because that furthers our progress with the stretch goals. I will say that it is the only opportunity to get the Blender files. Those don't go on the web stores, and otherwise in the future you'd have to get them as add-ons to another Kickstarter. And if you are just interested in the STLs, do bear in mind that it's always cheaper to buy them through the Kickstarter, because they will be significantly more expensive than on the web store. Other than that, if you like my work, please consider joining the Facebook group or my Discord, or if you're feeling super charitable, sign up for the Patreon. You do get a 25% discount voucher if you join the correct tiers there, and you can request kits each month, so don't worry, it's not purely charity. But anyway, thank you very much for your attention, thank you for watching. I know this was a bit of a long video, but for those of you who perhaps just didn't know anything about what the Blender files entailed, I hope you've been illuminated. Do take a look at the other videos on this channel, where I have some other older tutorials, if you want a better sense of things. But otherwise, yes, I suppose the takeaway is please support the Kickstarter. Cheerio now.